4 or 5 quarterback ever. And I worry that Joe Burrow, same organization, same ownership, it's going to be the same thing. If Joe Burrow gets an Andy Reid, he's hoisting the trophies, not Patrick Mahomes. And I really firmly believe that. So I've thought about the Bengals a lot because I'm always looking for new playoff teams, right? Because there's like 7 a year, right? Well, not actually. Last 3 years, it keeps coming down. Why is that happening? So we have mini camps, OTAs, and the first week or so of training camp. So I have new information. So I looked over my predictions. I've got one more tweak. This will not be the official tweak, but I looked over my predictions that I made a few months ago. So in the AFC, for instance, Josh Allen's going to win the division for as long as he's in his prime. The Patriots are the safest double your win total bet in the league in 5 years. Dolphins, Jets. I wouldn't change a thing. AFC North prediction, Ravens are the class of this division, and I mean, really one of the top 3 organizations in the league. I think because of all the noise around the Bengals, all because of ownership, I'd probably move the Bengals out. Steelers, Browns, just not good enough. AFC South is weak. An AFC West prediction. My final big tweak, I get the Bengals out, and I'd move Sean Payton in. I'd get Noise out, and I'd get a guy I've relied on for 25 years in the league, Sean Payton, in.
Yeah. That's the interesting part of this take. That you're going to remove, Colin wants to remove the Bengals and put in the Broncos. So this is where me and Colin are very similar, where we trust well-coached teams, well-run teams, and combine that with quarterbacks. And what he said earlier, where he said Joe Burrow has Andy Reid, he's hoisting the Lombardi trophies, not Patrick Mahomes. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I mean, I think it's absolutely remarkable what Joe Burrow has been able to do with the Cincinnati Bengals. And honestly, Cincinnati Bengals fans know this better than anyone else because they've been watching their team for decades. They don't pretend to be something they're not. That's the one thing about the Bengals. They do not pretend to be something that they're not. They understand that this has been a mess of a franchise. I don't really see any real Joe Burrow fan or Bengal fan really being like, oh, Joe Burrow just wasn't good enough. That's why they didn't make the playoff. This, that. I don't see any of that. And the truth is it's not even so much that I believe that if you had a better offensive coach, right, better than Taylor, and you put in Andy Reid, it's more so a couple things. One, Andy Reid would run a better team than anything else. He would make better GM moves, GM collaboration than any other coach. And you're also obviously taking Andy Reid away from Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, which is also would be massive. But Joe Burrow's career, Joe Burrow could be living Tom Brady's life, okay? I mean, like, if he just was part of a well-run franchise, like, he doesn't even 100% need an Andy Reid. If he was drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles, to the San Francisco 49ers, to, I'm trying to think if there's any other good teams, the Los Angeles Rams, he would have at least one Super Bowl. For sure, at least one Super Bowl. If not two, depending on obviously which team he went to and when. And instead, people try to act like he was a problem last year because he didn't throw for 400 yards and 17 touchdowns against the New England Patriots. It's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry that he did not have a perfect game every single game, but he played out of his mind. And I'm on the record saying that what Joe Burrow did last year was actually better than what Patrick Mahomes did in 2018 or 2022. Way more impressive, considering who he did it with, how he did it. Way more impressive to me. Still both impressive seasons by all means. But like what Joe Burrow has been doing has just been so elite, so special. But because, and I really realized this the other day, because we associate like playmaking right now with just like these absolute highlights of physicality, of speed, of mobility, that we are kind of right now at the peak of just like the Joe Burrows being forgotten, or we just said, like, well, he has got Jamar Chase, so I guess like all Joe Burrow has to do is just throw it up, and like that's it. It's all he has to do. Everything else is going to be Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, like, you know, and it's like that's obviously not true. And so people sleep on just how special and how elite Joe Burrow is. And yet we're not able to reliably see it. Now, I'm of the camp. I'm not so quick to kick out the Bengals like Colin is. And it's actually kind of interesting that he's more willing to keep, I think it's the Patriots in there. I believe, right, the Patriots, and bring in the kick out the Patriots and bring in the Broncos, but keep the and keep the Bengals in there. Like, to me, that would make more sense than saying I'm going to kick the Bengals out. Now, you can say, well, I trust the Patriots are going to be a better run franchise, etc., etc. But it's just like this Bengals team, all they need is a semblance of a defense. That's all they need, a semblance of a defense. And it's interesting because now you have the Chiefs as the wild card, as you can see. And it's just like, that will be interesting. If the Chiefs aren't actually winning the division, then it's like, all right, like that, then that'll be kind of interesting. But yeah, it'll be interesting because if the Bengals continue their offensive production, and if their defense is just remotely competitive, like if they could actually take like a true step forward. We've seen defenses, especially recently, with the Eagles, with the Chargers. Like, we've seen defenses really get great kind of quickly, like really absolutely within a snap of the fingers. If the Bengals could do something like that, I mean, like, we're going to say that they can't win the division? Like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, of course they can. And we're going to say that we're going to keep the Patriots in the playoffs, but not the Bengals? Like, no. And if the Bengals do miss the playoffs, and if that defense ends up being a mess, and the O-line continues to be a mess, and round we go, like, then Joe Burrow really should just be like, get me out of here. Sean McVay, let's hit me up. You did the whole game with Stafford and Jared Goff. Stafford's obviously done. He's on his way out. He's got 1 year max left in him. Let's do this. Get me out of here. I am not taking a single snap for the Cincinnati Bengals ever again. I'm done. Get me out of here. I want nothing to do with this franchise ever again. And I don't even think Bengals fans would even blame him. They shouldn't. So the Bengals have been a classic example of a franchise failing their quarterback pretty spectacularly. And I don't think what Colin said about if he had Andy Reid that he would be hosting the Lombardis, and it's not even just because this offense would be unlocked even more, right? I mean, like, Joe Burrow would be averaging like 5,500 passing yards. I mean, like, it would just be like ridiculous, honestly. It would be just the definition of insanity. But I think more from just running a franchise, getting this team ready to compete, ready to play, hiring the right defensive coordinator, right? Like, working with the GM, getting the right players, making the right moves, more so than just the coaching itself, the actual X's and O's. Don't get me wrong, that could always improve, right? Anytime you can get something like that, well, then that's obviously going to help you. But I just really think it would be more of like, all the other stuff is what would really ultimately elevate this team. And that's where then it becomes kind of a bummer, because you have an offensive head coach that's like good enough in a lot of ways, good enough to not give you the feeling of like, we're just outcoached, we're outcoached all the time, or he is just holding back Joe Burrow right now so much. Like, it's not necessarily the case either. So it's just like the Bengals have just been just can't quite bring it home. And it is going to be interesting this year. I understand what Colin's saying about how, like, oh, every year we get new playoff teams, this, that, and that's kind of changing. And that is because the teams that are well-run continue to be well-run. The teams that have the great quarterbacks continue to have the great quarterbacks. And the teams that don't have quarterbacks continue to not have quarterbacks. And the teams that are not well-run continue to not be well-run. And there you go. And so the question is can the Bengals turn the corner? That is the question. That is the literal Super Bowl winning question. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Cincinnati Bengals missing the playoffs and instead having the Denver Broncos there? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.